5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey, this is B-Movie Mike, and I'm back with my reviews of Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason, and the 2009 remake simply titled Friday the 13th. So without further ado, let's get to it. First up is 1993's Jason Goes to Hell. Jason Goes to Hell starts out with a beautiful young lady in a cabin. Of course, she's taking a shower, and then Jason shows up. She's able to escape the cabin and flee into the woods, with Jason close behind. When she gets into a clearing, an FBI hit squad pops up and blows Jason up into little Jason bits. His remains are then transported to a local coroner's office, who, after seeing Jason's heart begin beating again, decides to consume it. And then, somehow, the evil of Jason is transferred into him. And then, for the remainder of the film, Jason is represented by an evil worm-type creature, who is then passed from character to character like some kind of satanic venereal disease. But wait, it gets better. Not only does this film claim that Jason has a sister, but he also has a niece and a grandniece. And the eccentric bounty hunter Creighton Duke shows up to tell everybody that only a Voorhees can kill him, and only through a Voorhees can he be reborn. How he figured this shit out? Man, who knows? I can't tell you. I'm just going to go ahead and mercifully skip ahead to the end of the film, where a full-size Jason is reborn from the dead body of his sister. Yeah, you heard me right. After Jason's rebirth, he kills Creighton Duke, gets into a fight with a nerd, and then is subsequently stabbed to death by his niece, who happens to be wielding the Ajante dagger. How the hell Jason and the Golden Child have the same weakness is beyond me, but considering all the other goofy shit in this movie, hell, why not? After he's stabbed, Jason is pulled down to hell by evil Muppets, and the last shot of the film is Freddy's glove coming up through the earth, grabbing Jason's mask and pulling it down to hell with him. I believe in my Friday the 13th collection video, I gave a one-sentence review of this film, and it goes as follows. Jason goes to hell, and that's exactly where this piece of shit belongs. Have I changed my mind? Not exactly. While the film does contain some decent gore and some entertaining background characters, especially Creighton Duke, now that's a dude you would definitely not want to play 20 questions with. But other than that, it really just doesn't have a whole lot going for it. And it is still my least favorite film of the Friday the 13th franchise. The concept is stupid, the story is stupid, the look of Jason is freaking terrible, the final girl has the personality of a tree stump, and the whole thing is just one big mess. So therefore, I cannot really recommend that you check this film out. But if you do, check out the unrated version. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. Alright, up next we have Jason X from 2001 or 2002 or whenever it was released. Jason X begins at some point after Jason Voorhees has been captured by the United States government and held at the Crystal Lake Research Facility. In 2010, a government scientist named Rowan decides to place Jason in frozen stasis after several failed attempts to put him to death. However, Dr. Wimmer wants to do further research on Jason's rapid cellular regeneration, so he and a group of soldiers show up to transport Jason to a medical lab for experimentation. Rowan argues that Jason is uncontrollable and that if he should escape, innocent lives may be lost. Dr. Wimmer replies that he doesn't care about that because any information that could be learned by studying Jason would be well worth the risk. So Dr. Wimmer and his military escort go into the room where Jason's chained up and are immediately slaughtered by him. So after the bloodbath, Rowan now finds herself alone with an unrestrained and once again on the loose Jason. Jason chases Rowan and she leads him into the cryo chamber room where she traps him in a stasis chamber and activates it. But before he is frozen, Jason stabs his machete through the side of the chamber and into Rowan's stomach. Because of the chamber breach, the room automatically locks down, trapping Rowan and Jason inside, freezing them both. About 450 years later, in the year 2455, Earth has become too polluted to support life, and all life has now moved to a new planet, imaginatively named Earth 2. 3 students on a field trip led by Professor Brandon Lowe, who is accompanied by an android named KM-14, find the still frozen Jason and Rowan. They decide to take the frozen bodies aboard their spaceship. Once on board, they reanimate Rowan while Jason is pronounced dead and taken to the morgue. Of course, when Rowan finds out that Jason is also on board the ship, she warns Professor Lowe that Jason is very dangerous and should never have been brought on board the ship. However, the money-hungry Professor Lowe is unfortunately more concerned with Jason's value on the black market, because apparently in the future, frozen serial killers are highly sought after by collectors. As you may have already guessed, Jason wakes up and proceeds to kill everybody that's on board the spaceship, and mayhem ensues. I know a lot of people hate this film, but I actually kind of like it. Writer Todd Farmer's original idea was to basically rip off Alien, except replace the alien with Jason. But if they would have played it straight and the studio wouldn't have interfered as much as they did, it might have actually turned out to be a pretty cool movie. But unfortunately, the studio intervened, rewrites were made, and what could have been a really cool film was turned into a campy mess. And I would have to agree that there is a lot wrong with this film. Uber Jason looks stupid. I mean, whoever came up with that design isn't Jason uber enough as he is? And what was with the design in the beginning? He had hair, and it just looked like Kane Hodder wearing a hockey mask. Didn't even look like Jason. I don't know what they were thinking, but wow. And just like in Alien, they had an android on board. But unfortunately, it wasn't a cool, interesting android like Bishop. No. They had to turn it into a sex bot that was created by an oversexed nerdling. I don't hate it as much as everybody else. I actually kind of find it to be so bad it's good. And in my opinion, it's much better than the space adventures of the Leprechaun and Pinhead. And while I can't really recommend Jason X, I can definitely say that it's not the worst sci-fi horror film ever made. Alright, moving along, next up is Freddy vs. Jason from 2003. The film starts out with Freddy trapped in hell, due to the fact that the adults of Springwood have kept his existence a secret from their children. This means that the current generation of Springwood teenagers knows nothing of Freddy Krueger's existence, and this currently leaves him powerless to return to their nightmares. Hoping to bring fear back to Springwood, Freddy raises Jason Voorhees from hell, and by pretending to be his mother, he sends Jason out on a mission to kill the kids of Springwood, hoping that the fear inspired by Jason's killing spree will help to bring back his powers. But much to Freddy's chagrin, once Jason gets started on his slaughterfest, he just won't stop. And this backfires on Freddy because the kids begin to fear Jason and not him. Eventually, the teenagers figure out what's going on, and they decide to do something about it. So after Freddy possesses one of the kids and tranquilizes Jason, yeah, I said he tranquilized him, they decide to transport him all the way from Springwood, Ohio, all the way down to Camp Crystal Lake in New Jersey. I guess the reason for doing this is that they find Freddy to be more terrifying than Jason, and they're afraid he's going to win. So they hope that taking Jason all the way down to Camp Crystal Lake will give him home field advantage, and he will be able to take down Freddy, once and for all. So eventually the epic battle of the two terror titans goes down, and Jason comes out the winner. Or does he? For 15 years, Freddy vs. Jason sat in developmental hell. Over $6 million was spent on scripts and treatments. Was it worth the wait? Well, not exactly. First of all, whoever decided it was a good idea to hire Ronnie Yu as the director should be forced to deliver pizzas for the rest of their life. Because anybody that's that bad at their job doesn't deserve to have a good one. And whoever the hell decided it was a good idea to not bring back Kane Hodder should be kicked in a very sensitive area repeatedly. Apparently they made a decision to not bring Hodder back because they wanted to turn the Jason character into a large Frankenstein-like idiot who suffers from a severe case of hydrophobia. So I guess they're trying to say that Jason's not really evil? He's just misunderstood. He's just suffering from a very advanced case of rabies. The only real saving grace that this film has to offer is the final performance of Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, and he really does a good job. However, the film is very poorly directed, the screenplay's a mess, there is no respect paid to the character of Jason whatsoever, and ultimately it just feels like an okay Nightmare on Elm Street film that happens to feature Jason. As you can probably tell, I really didn't like Freddy vs. Jason. It's okay, but the only reason I would even recommend it would be to check out the real Freddy Krueger's final film adventure. And this brings me to the 2009 remake, simply titled Friday the 13th. The story of this film is an amalgamation of the original 4 Friday films. The film starts out at the end of part 1, where Mrs. Voorhees gets her head chopped off with a machete, but we see Jason actually witness the event this time. Up next, we're introduced to a group of 20-somethings that are wandering through the woods on Jason's property looking for a secret marijuana grow field. Soon they are attacked and brutally slaughtered by a tater sack wearing Jason. And now's when we actually get the opening credit sequence, which was kind of weird. After the opening title sequence has ended, Jason finds his hockey mask. And soon we are introduced to another group of 20-somethings that are at the lake to party. And at the same time, a guy shows up looking for his missing sister, who just happens to be the girl that was kidnapped earlier in the film. More people are brutally murdered, boobs are exposed, and the film comes to a conclusion with Jason's head being rammed into a wood chipper, and then his body subsequently being dumped into Camp Crystal Lake. The end. Of course it's not the end. You got the chair jumper. Jason jumps out of the water and grabs the final girl, and then it's the end. As far as remakes go, this one's not too bad. I've seen far worse. And to my surprise, I actually kind of enjoyed it. Of course, it's not without its flaws. The script could have definitely used a couple more revisions. It's way too choppy, and having the open titles not appear until midway through the film, or at least 20 minutes in, was a mistake. Some of the characters are really annoying and forgettable, and overall, it could have just used a little more polish. But the direction was solid, and Derek Mears did a really great job portraying Jason. Some people might be kind of surprised by how much I like this film. I actually consider it to be the best Friday the 13th film since Part 7. Considering the films that came after it, there wasn't really a whole lot of competition. Friday the 13th, the remake, features good direction, cool locations, brutal kills, buckets of blood, and lots of nudity. So for those reasons, I can definitely recommend that you check out the remake of Friday the 13th. Well, this concludes my reviews of the final 4 Friday the 13th films. I hope you have a great time celebrating Friday the 13th. Be safe, take it easy, and as always, thanks for watching.